herself. I hope to share a better update, but I will not be returning to play the season. I spent hours in the gym every day with the singular goal of getting back out there. Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I'm feeling. I want to thank everyone who has had my back through all this uncertainty. This has been incredibly frustrating, but even in the bad, there is good. And the way the fans continue to show up for me and for the Fever brought me so much joy and important perspective. I'm so proud of how this team has only gotten stronger through adversity this year. Now it's time to close out the season and claim our...
Alright, this is crazy. One individual, Caitlin Clark, is solely responsible for the WNBA's recent severe wake-up call. We're talking about ticket sales plummeting in tandem with ratings that are tumbling more quickly than a lousy dunk contest. The legitimacy of the league as a whole is currently in doubt. The aspirations of every other team, except from the Indiana Fever, are essentially sinking like an anchor in deep water.
Oh, it's official. The most heartbreaking news for Indiana Fever fans that could come of the season, but Caitlin Clark will not be returning to the 2025 WNBA season. She took the liberty of posting it herself because there were many people asking to hear from Caitlin Clark, to hear how she felt about the entire situation, because a lot of people felt like it was the front office that was kind of making...
Take this. The WNBA's unprecedented growth tagline now seems like a weak pitch from an overworked intern after Caitlin Clark's season-ending injury revelation. The gleam has vanished entirely. The excitement is waning, and owners are becoming more than just nervous. Don't worry, this is full-blown panic mode, and believe me, it's spreading more quickly than you can think throughout the league.
Norm for the WNBA is being largely ignored by the media. Largely ignored by sports media, not considered a real professional league, to the point where people didn't even know it existed until CC22. That's just a fact. You can't believe how many times I have people come in the chat and say, I didn't even know that there was a professional women's basketball league until Caitlin. Yeah, it's the facts.
Officially, the Queen will be absent for the entire year. Additionally, league executives are currently in complete disarray. Following weeks of hazy updates, non-stop conjecture, and no discernible timeline hints, Caitlin Clark at last broke the news that everyone had been dreading. I'm not coming back this season. It only required that one sentence. And the worst-case scenario for the WNBA has just come to pass.
And Clark saying that she tried to get back on the floor. It appears that she just ran out of time, not able to get enough confidence back in her body as the season wraps up and the playoffs are likely about to begin for Indiana. I mean, it's a gut punch that basically encompasses an entire season of them. The Fever have lost so many players to injury, but obviously none bigger than Clark. And there was such a weight for this second season after her magnificent rookie season. And then, you know, the anticipation of her possibly coming back only...
Since numbers don't lie, let's discuss them. An average of 1.26 million people watched each Indiana Fever game when Caitlin Clark was lighting up the court. After the groin injury on July 15th, the national broadcast abruptly dropped to a pitiful 80-47-0-0-0. That is a sobering 53% nose drop, a goods train-delivered reality check. And keep in mind that those figures were obtained while fans were still holding out hope for a comeback. The actual collapse hasn't even begun yet, even after Clark formally closed it for the season. Get ready, because the WNBA is facing a complete emptiness rather than simply a decline.
When she was supposed to return versus the Minnesota Lynx, supposedly, and then the Scott Agneses and all them start talking about she suffered a bone bruise in Phoenix, I told y'all it was a wrap. It was done. It was done. They knew it. And I believe they've known far longer. They have known. They've kept us fans in the dark, and it sucks. It absolutely sucks. Man, I was so looking forward to watching Caitlin Clark play this season. Now we have to wait an entire offseason, and we don't even know what's going to happen. There might be a lockout. There might not even be a 2026 season.
Without Caitlin Clark, the WNBA doesn't seem like a professional organization. To be honest, it seems more like a forum for gamers that are perplexed as to why nobody is watching. During her injury absence, the league had an opportunity to demonstrate its resilience, and the results were ruthless. NBA TV broadcasts dropped by 40% in the absence of her non-Clark gains. They only managed an average of 549,000 viewers, which is still a startling 37% less than what she accomplishes on her own. It's almost comical how different Clark-led matches are from everyone else's. Not just one superstar is missing out on this. The league's whole marketing strategy is being revealed in real time, and executives are utterly scared as the foundation upon which they have constructed everything begins to crumble.
It has been a huge disaster as far as public perception for the WNBA. An entirely new group of people started tuning in to this league for one player and one player only. In fact, so many new people tuned into this league, the viewership for the Caitlin Clark games largely surpassed anything else going on in the WNBA. I would argue that the amount of Caitlin Clark fans are at least 3x the amount of WNBA.
Commissioner Kathy Engelbert is free to refer to her as America's most popular athlete, but let's face it, that title carries a terrible amount of responsibility. Every injury turns into an existential crisis when the success of your league depends on the health of one individual. The WNBA had been working for decades to create a viable product before Clark arrived and made the difference between being relevant and being completely irrelevant. Now, consider how many people will watch the WNBA playoff finals since Caitlin Clark won't be playing. With Clark out for the whole season, the Indiana Fever, who are now in 7th place and just hanging on to a postseason berth at 21-20, probably won't even make it. The team that was tipped to contend for a championship is suddenly battling for a spot in the playoffs without their top ticket seller, their marketing powerhouse, or their forward.
Because she knows just how much she means to everybody that buys those tickets. I mean, I would say at least like 90 to maybe not 95, but like 90% of the people in arenas were there to see Caitlin Clark, which of course they became fans of the Fever afterwards. But you know, Caitlin Clark is the draw. And then here's this one where she's actually in her street clothes. And yeah, these are, you know, pretty heartfelt photos, her in the huddle with her teammates. But I gotta say, this was quite a year. I mean, there came a certain point where people, including myself, were just like, what is actually going on? I think that it's time. It was definitely time to tell.
The financial implications of Clark's absence are astounding. According to sports economist Ryan Brewer, she might have a $1 billion economic impact this season. It's not only money from basketball. We're discussing broadcast deals, tourism, merchandise, and all the other aspects of being a cultural phenomenon. Other players, meanwhile, are still attempting to determine how to translate social media indicators into real commercial impact. There is more to Clark's advantage over the others than just his basketball prowess. It all comes down to marketability, sheer star power, and the indisputable capacity to genuinely pique interest in women's basketball. This is when it becomes delicious, though. The complete panic that the league is experiencing. Players have been disparaging Clark throughout the 2024 season, committing flagrant fouls as if they were collecting trading cards. They are currently witnessing empty arenas reverberate with the sound of their own despair. The league's pervasive petty jealousy. The spotlight recently faded forever for 2024, so it's going to attract much more attention soon. The ramifications are now more severe than a flagrant foul by Carter Williams, but the targeting was genuine and the injuries were unavoidable. Compared to other players in the league, Clark experienced the most physical abuse. Additionally, you should safeguard that investment if your entire marketing plan centers on a single individual. However, the league's failure is now costing them in the form of canceled broadcasts and empty seats.
Indiana Fever will be either a first-round exit or may not make the playoffs. I really believe that Mystics game is a trap game. Also, I don't know if they have all the pieces anymore now with Chloe Bibby out for the rest of the season, another random player. But we drafted her. We kind of know her, but still, she wasn't part of the team for the majority of the season. And then Ariel Powers and Odyssey Sims and Shea Petty. Who are these people? You know what I'm saying? The Indiana Fever are no longer the Indiana.
Let's be frank about what actually transpired while Clark was out due to injury. With alternative plotlines, the league attempted to create drama, but the fans just weren't into it. The attendance at Angel Reese's games without Clark was less than that of a high school JV game. When the Chicago Sky faced the Fever, they unexpectedly found themselves playing in front of 6,000 fans rather than the 20,000 they sorely needed. The Chicago Sky had essentially structured their entire season around being Clark's opponent. And within 48 hours of Clark's injury prior to their June game, ticket prices fell from $86 to $25. Folks, it isn't a tiny dip. A market collapse is what that is. During Clark's absence, the desperation was evident. Expecting her to play, teams rescheduled games to bigger stadiums, but they were unable to do so when she was hurt. As an example, the Washington Mystics rescheduled their game to Baltimore in order to accommodate the anticipated Clark crowds, but when she was unable to participate, ticket prices plummeted from $41 to $1. It's a masterclass in how focusing your whole marketing campaign on one individual can swiftly transform enthusiasm into pure disappointment. This is the last nail in the coffin. The announcement of Clark's season-ending injury comes at the most inconvenient moment for playoff positioning. Her former title rivals, the Fever, are now vying for a spot as the 8th seed. They have a 97.4% chance of qualifying for the playoffs according to ESPN's Power Index. Here's the catch, that is assuming they can continue on their current course even without their star player, major offensive weapon, and main attraction.
WNBA ratings' worst nightmare just came true because it was just announced that Caitlin Clark will be out for the rest of the season. She's only played 13 games this season, and her most recent injury, which happened back in July, was a groin injury. The craziest part about all of this has been the reporting around her injury. The team has never given her a timetable for return, and literally up until today, the team had been reporting that she was still trying to get back on the court this season. The Fever only have 3 regular season games left in the season before playoffs. Some fans were even speculating that they've just been stringing fans along the whole time because they know that ratings and attendance would drop once they announced that she's out, which is also so ironic that they announced it the day that football season started.
It is impossible to overestimate Clark's announcement's psychological impact. The league's worst fear is now being expressed by fans who have been organizing vacations, purchasing tickets, and watching obsessively for months. I'm out if she's out. The casual fans who were introduced to women's basketball by Clark's supremacy at college are no longer there. The corporate sponsors that joined the Caitlin Clark movement are now giving their investments a serious second look. As we speak, the television networks that centered their programming on Fever games are frantically looking for backup material. For the WNBA, this is the really frightening part. What impact does Clark's season-ending statement have on the league's playoff rating if her ailment alone has the power to destroy attendance? Without Clark's participation, the WNBA Finals might devolve into an epic catastrophe. The harsh truth that casual fans don't care about Liberty versus Lynx is now being prepared for by networks that were hoping for playoff numbers that broke records. Caitlin Clark was more important to them than everyone else.